Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown, and join with me today are some faces that you may know of, and maybe some that you've heard the names of at least. We have BEDECANDIO7, JEBAS, and Speedy. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
We did the set review, I want to say it was set 4. We had 2 of y'all at least, and that was a great set review. Really glad to be here for set 6. A lot of great cards in this set that I think a lot of people are excited for, but also this is going to be an entirely different testing season as we're heading into Continentals. Really kind of, I think a lot of people are getting very tight with the group that they are testing with. And so getting some insight from players who have done well at competitions and who have been longtime TCG veterans, I think will be really good for the community. So thank y'all again. If y'all could tell us just a little bit about your TCG history and who you are.
Yeah, sure. Brennan DeCandio, BEDECANDIO7 on most platforms, and I play Lorcana. Picked up Lorcana when it came out, liked it. Have a kid who enjoys playing it. She's turning 6 soon, so I've done okay in the DLCs. I top rated Chicago, but looking forward to Continentals in January, as well as helping a lot of people prepare for the European ones coming up sooner.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board, BEDECANDIO. Got to interview you kind of after your big win that you had over at Charlie's Collectible Show, and so we've kind of seen you around, and you've been performing pretty well with Lorcana so far.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was a fun one. That was even the set 2 or set 5, which we're now getting a whole new slew of cards, so it'll be fun to go through them.
Well, 20 Lore Pro is going to be at this Charlie's Collectible Show December 13th and 14th. So if y'all are going to be there, we're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I need more people to up the prize support, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be consistent no matter how many people are there, they said. So no, maybe for the next one, but we'll see.
Well, JEBAS, can you give us a little introduction of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, sort of started playing Lorcana right when it came out. When there was online clients available, we were doing quite a bit of streaming with it when it was able to be. A little bit of YouTube, a little bit of Twitch, and I did okay, some modest finishes here or there, and, didn't do so well in the last event, but, crushed the side events, so, do what you can, right?
We're excited to have you on board because this is kind of an announcement, I guess, to the 20 Lore Pro community, but you're going to be joining us at Charlie's Collectible Show in December as one of our announcers alongside myself. So glad to have you here and looking forward to seeing you in person then.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
And Speedy, kind of our special guest, featured guest, not doing a deck tech today, but is going to be giving us some mechanics and interesting interactions with cards or things to take note of. Speedy, can you introduce yourself to us today?
Yeah, you don't want my deck techs. I'm awful at deck building. That's why I do this instead. My name's Speedy. Virtually everyone calls me Speedy. People in person at this point call me Speedy at the events I go to. It's just way easier. So I got a background with TCGs. I've played Magic back in like the mid-2010s. Born of the Gods, I think, is when I started. Lorcana came around and basically got started at the start of it. I got involved with Pixelborn back for a few months after we got started, and I actually ended up becoming like part of the mod team and stuff and helping support the client. And I wanted to know more about the rules so I can make sure that the client ran really well. So I started getting involved in some of the rules communities, the official Discord server. There were rules questions there. Started getting connected with a lot of the rules lawyers, and before I knew it, it was just kind of like a daily thing I was doing. I was constantly engaging in the rules, while also trying to manage the Pixelborn community at its peak and so on. And I've been well acquainted with 20 Lore for a while. I'm a mod there. I'm a mod in a lot of Lorcana communities now, so I spend multiple hours a day at this point just engaged online with the Lorcana community as I can manage it. I started judging at the Lorcana Challenge events. So far I've judged at Fort Worth, Vegas, and Seattle. At Seattle I was the stream judge, so if you go back and watch the VODs, you'll actually see me in the background a few times sitting next to like Zan and Luke and a lot of those people during some of their matches, and it's just been cool. It's been a lot of fun getting to meet and build with this community, the Ink Thieves community, the 20 Lore community, the Labyrinth community, the Love to Lore community, just all these fantastic groups of people, the judges and rules layers and PPG and the Ravensburger staff that we engage with, right? It's just it's a wonderful community that I'm happy to be a part of, and what I've done with the rules has made me more connected than I ever expected to be this time a year ago. So I've spent a lot of time obviously with the rules, and they wouldn't put me on stage if they didn't trust my rules expertise, I think. So
I've been incredibly impressed by, kind of like what you already said, the number of Discords that you were a moderator in or have a key piece into. Goodness, you've gone, like you said, like from judging to just boom, you're at the top of like getting on stage and be able to judge like the main stage. It's really cool to hear your accomplishment and getting to see you like at the peak of kind of what judges want to be doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wouldn't say that about myself. There are judges far better than me, right? Like being gracious for the opportunity to be a stream judge for Seattle and getting to sit next to Luke during those final moments. So that was a huge honor.
Well, kind of on that note, what you've kind of been talking about already, if you're watching this video and you're not a member of the Lorcana Rulebook Hub, you should head on over. We're going to have the link in the description for you to check out. We're going to be doing content, video content here in the future with 20 Lore Pro in collaboration with the Lorcana Rulebook Hub on some rules, mechanics, things like that in the future. Those are still in development, but really excited to be collaborating with them. And if you have rules questions or just things you want to learn more about Lorcana and kind of the nuances of how the game mechanics work, head on over to Lorcana Rulebook Hub and you'll find Speedy answering a lot of questions.
I'm there. We have a lot of great advisors. They jump on those questions right away. So if you ask a question, you'll get an answer quick. We have spaces for discussing like rules theory and more complex topics. You know, a lot of people get a lot of value out of the quizzes. And we've started branching out. There's the exhibition match going on right now with the Illumineers Champions League. And so a few of our advisors are over there judging for that. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's so great to hear. And I'm excited for the Illumineers Champions League. 20 Lore Pro is going to be a part of that. We originally were going to have a team of kind of the founders with Stunning Rob, myself, and Luxac, who were kind of the stream team. Stunning Rob isn't available due to personal reasons with work, but BEDECANDIO has graciously offered to step in, and so we're really excited to have him on Team 20 Lore. He will definitely be carrying myself as y'all watch SirAshtown play.
My back is kind of heavy. Hurting. I was at the gym today. I don't know. We'll see how much I can carry.
Y'all gotta beat JEBAS first when the Ink Thieves get in there. So.
Oh, okay, well then I get to fly first. That's fine.
I think they already played without me, and I don't know if they did super well. So
there's been some good matches already, and I know there's gonna be more to come. I'm gonna have to stop playing Blurple, my for fun deck, and actually get serious. So
I don't know. You might be able to play it again. There's a lot of new cards.
Well, before we get into set 6, the new cards, kind of taking a step back and looking at season 5. Lots of highs. I mean, we had several DLCs within set 5, big events, a lot of competitions. BEDECANDIO, what was your favorite color pairing from this last set?
I mean, it was Amber Steel songs. I mean, it's not every set that they give, you know, the deck that I enjoy playing a lot and have a lot of fun with. One of the higher power level legendaries in the set. In Prince Naveen, and they did. Pairing that with everyone's favorite and or least favorite, depending on which side of the Be Prepared coin you're on, enemy Pete. Yeah, it was a fun time for that. It led to a lot of interesting situations within the archetype. It made it much less, I think, play draw dependent. I think Pete does a really good job of helping break parities and making the game about other things other than momentum, because it can stop the momentum. But yeah, that was my favorite deck by a lot. It has shaped how Lorcana has been played, I think, since set 3 in some capacity. It allowed me to play a lot of events, played in the Charlie's Collectible Show 10K, the Source Games, one of the events they had when they were visiting my hometown, and then in Vegas when I went to. So yeah, a lot of fun. I enjoyed every minute of it.
You know, I was thinking back to the first time I interviewed you. I want to say it was for your Order 66 deck back in the day, Amber Steel.
It's either that or the one before that one of the two.
It just kind of comes full circle, you know?
yeah. There was the first one for one of the Pixel Board events for the pack events that happened where
that's right.
The first one was Lantern, and I played Rockstar Stitches, and no one liked Rockstar Stitch at the time, which eventually fell out of favor. But then again, after that was Order 66. Those two wins were, I think we talked after about them, or in the middle of, I don't know, one of the two. But yeah.
Yeah, you did great too. I mean, got to interview you at the CCS, like right after that win, and again, another great Amber Steel list. Jebas, what was your favorite color pairing from set 5? Fond memories, or even if they were traumatic?
Everything about set 5 for me ended up being pretty traumatic. Going from set 4, blue steel, feeling like it was sort of the catch-all deck that could battle against the Bucky Menace more so than most, and then jumping into set 5 where blue steel was dubious at times. Yeah, it certainly had some matchups that it could do well, but probably the majority of them were a little less than coin flips, which is just not where you want to be with a deck, and it left me a little stranded.
Well, looking into set 6, kind of more on the competitive side, deck building side, looking at all the cards, what are some cards that kind of excite you that you think, okay, these are going to have some big waves, this is a good card, this has got some energy?
There's a couple of cards that I think are really interesting additions to the different color spaces. Green now has direct damage counter in Mosquito Bite, where it's able to put 1 damage just directly on a character, which gets around resist, and it allows that color combination to interact with sort of unexerted characters a little bit more than they maybe had to previously. Something like your Lilos and your random 2/1s that now they just have a single action that can just take them out, which is definitely a change for what that color had access to before, where generally their damage required that the character itself already be damaged, right?
Yeah, Mosquito Bite. I've heard some people say they love it, and other people are like, well, it's another cantrip.
I was wondering when that was going to get into the game. After set 1, I was wondering if they were going to make that. If it'd be, at that point in time, I thought it was going to be almost too good in some ways. Obviously, that's changed a bit when we saw Let the Storm Rage on, but yeah.
Yeah. The fact that it's inkable makes it a lot more viable as well, because you can just stick them in the deck, and when they're bad, they're just ink, and that's fine.
BEDECANDIO, first impressions, cards that jump out to you immediately.
There's just so many cards that have like potential to make different styles of existing decks work better, and some of them are kind of easy auto includes in some ways to some decks. Biggest one is Sail, the Azurite Sea. Just I think the clearest, best card in the set. Maybe now best Sapphire card that exists. Hiram's super powerful too. One of the big ones that I've actually been I haven't gotten to try out yet is Alice, the Savvy Sailor. The 3-cost uninkable 1/4 that Quest for 2 has ward, and it gives something else of yours ward and +1 lower this turn, so it can be used in a very aggressive way or a defensive way. That card has me pondering a lot of cards over and over again, because we keep thinking about all the cards that are, this just dies to Medusa, dies to this, dies to whatever. I get tired of hearing that. Yeah, in this new world, we get to protect it from that. Now you figure out how to protect the Alice, and what roads does that put you down. But yeah, it's interesting to see what other cards that opens up to being good. That's one of the cards I'm most excited to experiment with in the set.
Each of the colors got something pretty strong, or something to at least try on test.
Except for steel.
They got a big Gontu. Come on.
That's one of the better. That's in the top 5 steel cards for sure.
They got the Ralph. I think the Wreck-It Ralph's pretty solid.
That's also in the top 5 cards. They're actually just like in order. It's like Calhoun, Pluto, Ralph, Gontu, and I don't know if Amelia's good. I don't know if the other John Silver's good. The 3-cost one, that one's reasonable.
I think they're meta dependent, right? If the effect is really good, then they're probably good. If the effect is bad, then they're probably not good enough.
No, Pluto's just the best deal card though. That's just the best one. Just 5/5 for 4. Dinkable. They're bodyguard.
And with new cards, like you were saying, Jebas, comes lots of new game mechanics, game interactions, things that we have to consider when we're looking at how these cards play with one another. Speedy, can you give us some examples that you could see from set 6? Cards that are going to cause more game questions, more judge calls, more what does this card do? How does this interact with this other card? Just things that we need to kind of be more mindful of as a player base of looking at these new cards.
No, there's a lot of interesting cards. I do think set 6 is doing a lot. Add new interesting mechanics. We've obviously added mill. We've added a lot of inkwell interaction. There's a whole suite of cards that say whenever something goes to your inkwell, do X or pay X. They added a bunch of inkwell dumps, right? Some of the cards that have stood out already in interactions and questions that have come up throughout the spoiler season. Really fun card. It's an interesting card. A lot of people read that and said, I get to play Lilo for free. Well, no, she still costs 2 ink. Right? Unless she says for free, you are still playing her. It's just weird for them because it's at the beginning of their turn, right? So you may play her at the beginning of your turn for 2 ink. I know we've had questions about her clause to enter exerted, right? For reference, she says at the start of your turn, if she is in your discard, you may play her and she enters exerted. So questions have come up like, oh, can I play her with Rockstar? Sure, but Rockstar's not going to exert her for you, right? Because that's a triggered ability. The new Chippendale caused a scuffle for really pedantic reasons. This was really something only a rules lawyer would care about. The card is called Chip N Dale, and the rules, the CRD only qualified cards that had an ampersand. So there was very pedantic questions for a while about if that actually applies to the rules they created for and cards like Flotsam and Jetsam. The new Simba, I know people were asking about the new Simba Pride Protector and his he has an intervening if clause, right? So people were like, oh, can I like use Bernard, which is a card everyone forgot is a thing. Yeah, right. Set 3, Bernard says that
ready something. Yeah.
Ready one.
If this character is exerted.
If he's exerted.
Yeah. So people were like, can I use Simba Bernard? Everything's ready.
No.
But then people don't understand intervening if clauses because those check both when it goes into the bag and when it resolves. And if it's not true at the second point, then it doesn't happen. So the genie, wonderful trickster, caused a literal 2 days of debate among the rules community because people were debating whether or not he could actually draw for himself and play. There was actually a large swath of the rules advisors who did believe he could draw for himself. The new Peter Pan, Neverland Trickster, the one that says you can't gain lore unless you've challenged this turn, that caused some interesting questions to come up. I know there was a question that came up just today even about Super Goof. So the question was raised, if I challenge with Super Goof while there's an exerted Peter Pan in play, do I still get to gain the 2 lore?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. And I think most people would probably assume that because the character has exerted. There was questions about John Silver, Ferocious Friend. Whenever he quests, you may deal 1 damage to another chosen character. If you do ready that character, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. And the question came up is if I deal 1 damage to something with resist, do I still get to ready a character?
0's a number, isn't it?
They're not contingent on each other, though.
Yeah. Well, so they did come around and clarify that if the no damage is actually dealt, then no, you don't get to ready the character effect. Right. And that actually caused a pretty big stir with the rules advisors because there was concerns about they had previously clarified things like teeth and ambitions. If I use teeth and ambitions on a character with resist 2, my character has resist 2, I still can do the other side of the effect.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it was some very specific delineations of cost versus not cost. John Silver isn't actually a cost to the outcome. It feels like it in practice, but it's not. Whereas teeth inhibitions, dealing 2 to your thing, is a cost to do the other half, based on how the rules are written. They did clarify that if no damage is actually end up marked, if you don't actually place a damage counter after resolving his effect, because of resist or whatever, then you would not ready a character. So that was a bit of a topsy-turvy for a lot of the rules lawyers. It caused quite a bit of debate. I thought Tadashi Hamada was cool. I haven't seen a lot of questions for it, but I thought it was an interesting card, specifically because of how he's written. So during an opponent's turn, whenever this character is banished, you may put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell face down, then put this card into your Inkwell face down. And so specifically because this is wording, and I know for a fact people will mess this up, but this first part is a may. So you don't have to put something. You don't have to do the Mickey Mouse of your top deck, right, Detective? You don't have to do that effect. But no matter what you do need to put Tadashi into your Inkwell.
Good to know.
So you can get 2 cards when Tadashi. I actually like it because he's basically a big "don't touch me," right? If you touch me, I'm getting 2 ink, right? Or just 1 ink if I want to, right? Amelia caused a stir because of the wording on her second ability, right? While being challenged, your other characters gain resist 1. And there was a lot of questions about whether or not the while being challenged qualified to Amelia herself or to other characters. They did clarify for us that it's for other characters. So while your other characters are being challenged, they will gain resist 1. Sail the Azurite Sea works exactly like Bell, Strange but Special. It does not work like Fishbone Quill. It does not work like Tipo. It does not work like any of those other things. So,
well, gosh, Speedy, that was a lot of, I think, really good points and things that I hadn't even considered. So I'm really glad that you brought them to today's interview because those are things that I think, like you were saying, a lot of players are going to be asking about. So thank you so much, Speedy, for your time and for telling us about those rules. That's really great. Could you highlight for us in this new set some of your favorite locations or some of the new locations that we see in set 6?
So the Sugar Rush Speedway loop I think is really cool, but Sugar Rush Speedway with starting line with the new finish line effect I think is a super great synergy, right? You could just take something, if something is drawing you a card when it gets banished, right? You could exert it with starting line, move it off of starting line. It's got 1 damage on it. You put it on Sugar Rush Speedway, and then Sugar Rush Speedway trigger goes in the bag, and then you're banishing your character, you're drawing a card, and you're gaining 3 lore and drawing 3 cards from Sugar Rush Speedway. I think that's a super cool interaction. I love it. I'm curious to see where that goes. I think we've gotten a lot of other cards to enable some of the really good locations we had from previous sets. So locations that just didn't feel worth it might start showing up now. I know the Amber Ruby Sugar Rush loop has already gotten a lot of traction. So I'm curious to see if that will find a staying place in the meta.
Well, thank you so much, Speedy, for giving us an overview into the locations, the newest ones for set 6. Well, talking about strong cards, BEDECANDIO, I know you talk about 10s. What do you think are the 10s of set 6?
Sail the Azurite Sea is probably the 10. It's rare for a set to have more than one, and I'm pretty sure that's the one. It's the best card in the set. But there's a lot of other good cards, for sure.
JEBAS, if you had to choose a 10 best card in the set, the
Different
one that
10.
A different 10? Impossible. Yes. So a card like Oswald, if you're playing, an almost purely item synergy-based deck, like that card is going to be insane because it just does everything, and it does it for free, basically. But if there's not a good enough item deck to combo off, then the card, is fine, right? So that is certainly one to keep an eye on, and I think there's a few in this set that are similar, where they have very specific things on them, and if there's enough pieces around it, might make a 10.
Well, talking about these level 10, these powerful cards, kind of doing some deck brewing, figuring out what we want to play for the next set. BEDECANDIO, can you kind of lead us off with a deck that we could be playing here in set 6?
Ruby Amber, much more of a kind of aggressive locations variant we haven't seen too much of, going back a set to some of the cards that were inputted to kind of pair with, the starting line itself, Sugar Rush Speedway, to now have the finish line, Sugar Rush Speedway. So that combo we were kind of talking about before, this deck utilizes it pretty well, having multiple cards that both care about having locations in play, don't make me say it, Taffeta Mutton Fudge. The 1 cost and 4 cost. 4 cost gaining lore, 1 cost helping you control some lore. The Ruby 3 cost Vanellope von Streets basically turns any location it's at into a Queen's Castle, which on turn 3, if you've led on the starting line, you can just move it there right away. So the following turn, you can kind of buff it up. And of course, any point in time, if you have something dry for a turn, can just drop the finish line and go from start to finish and clear things up. Yeah, the deck's still an experiment. I do think that it includes a card that I'm fairly certain is the best Ruby card in the set. It's one of the top 2, which is the Moana. That's that one, the 1 cost Moana. It's a self-taught sailor. 1 cost 3/2 that can quest immediately, that does not die to Diamond Fox. By die, of course, it trades with, but it doesn't just straight up get eaten by it. That in conjunction with the shifted Moana, Kakamora Leader, being able to gain a bunch of lore for a wide board immediately by putting everything over to one of the 16 locations, pretty impressive. And the other one that I think is the most impressive to me that I kind of overlooked when I first looked at the set was Wendy Darling. It is uninkable. It is a 1/2 for 2 evasive, but it is a captain. So if you end up playing a deck with Piglet, which this deck could play Piglet, or Smee, it works better with Smee because captains, but working with Piglet, being a very aggressive pirate captain early on, it has a big benefit to be able to remove opposing Diablos. It has evasive, it can become 2 strength with any pirate in play, which there's a few in this deck. There's, I think, a total of 16 pirates. Yeah, Minnie Mouse Pirate Lookout. Yeah, the uninkable slots in this game are very much a premium. There's 16 uninkables in this deck, but they are cards that are very impactful, cards you always kind of want, cards that are key to your engine. Wendy Darling getting a pass because it's power level. There's a couple of locations in this deck that are kind of superfluous. The Underworld and Neverland, they're not really there to be amazing. They're more so there. We want some number of locations to play on turn 1 for Fix It Felix, which 2 cost 1/3 that draws a card, kind of Yen Sid power level, where you just get to have an early replacement, have a body in play, and you need more things to move characters from to get to the finish line. Whether it be with Speedway self-fulfilling, If you really need to, you can pay 6 and do it, but there's also Tuk Tuk. Tuk Tuk moves it for functionally free or for 3 if you want to look at it that way, where you can just move 2 things over to the Speedway, kind of get the trigger off that way, and refill your hand that way, and hopefully close the game out with Super Goof, with Moana, the shift one, big one. You can just play it, you don't have to shift it. And also moving around Tafitas is pretty good with just generic passive lore game without having to exert it, depending on what your opponent's doing there. It kind of came together. It was a bunch of pieces all tied together by a couple copies of Brawl, which hopefully will keep you alive. And yeah, Moana is, again, I'm a really big fan of it. I think it's going to be the most played Ruby card, even in decks like, I mean, we can reimagine Ruby Amethyst in a lot of ways, where you play Moana, Wendy Darling, Flynn. When you play Moana into Flynn, that's 3 strength they have to contest on a Flynn on turn 2 before you're gaining lore, and that's really hard for most decks to do without Cindy storming you or Diablo storming you. So yeah, I think those are 2 of the most impactful Ruby cards in the set for sure, and the text takes pretty good advantage of them.
No love for Sharkface?
Nope. Not really. Maybe a bit in Ruby Sapphire potentially, but I don't really know what it's adding that the deck doesn't already do pretty well. Jury's out for me on that one. I'll have to see it. I think it has a high ceiling and low floor. It has the potential to be amazing, but also has the potential to be kind of medium.
Oh, we'll see. It's interesting at least. It has some.
Not
some
for me in
words
this
on
deck, but yeah, for
not
sure.
in this deck, not at all. But there are some worlds where it could be really playable.
Sure.
I like the look of the deck for sure.
Well, speaking of your decks, JEBAS, what are you playing? What are you bringing today?
So there's some new and interesting Floodborn cards that actually came out of set 6 here. So there's the Basil, that is a 6 cost, 4/5, shift 4, cost for 2, and so this says during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may pay 1 to have chosen opponent choose and discard a card.
Boo.
Yeah, I mean, feelings on discard aside, it is a very powerful effect. Being able to have reoccurring discard without necessarily needing to commit additional cards in your deck outside of just being inkables, right? To do the effect, I think is pretty interesting. And then I also quite like the Jasmine. This is a shift 5, 6 cost, 5/5, lore 2. And when you play this character, if you use shift to play her, return all other exerted characters to their player's hands. There's also a decent 3 cost Jasmine that, you get some choices. You can either exert chosen damage character or give a character reckless. So there's a target for it. There's a 1-drop Basil in blue. So this would be a blue-green deck. And it's essentially leveraging the Tipo and the Sail the Azurite Sea to get you a bit ahead on your ink, as well as how far I'll go. Some of the more powerful sort of ink forward cards that we've seen. To just be kind of your traditional discard deck. It's got Prince John's. We've got the Diablo package in here because it's just very strong. Once you've discarded all of your opponent's cards, if you are drawing an extra card every turn, you're just going to bury them in card advantage. Even if they rip something that allows them to dig out of it, the damage is already done. It also gets to maybe try out the new 7-cost uninkable spell that I think is probably going to be one of the most unfun spells to play against in the game. If you thought that Be Prepared was bad, just wait until your entire hand gets discarded. Bend to My Will is just a 7-cost action that says each opponent discards all cards in their hand. Do I think that will necessarily be the best 60-card 1v1 format card ever? Not necessarily. It's worth trying, I think. If anybody plays a little bit more casually and plays in multiplayer, they are just going to not have a lot of friends left. So that'll be unfortunate if that happens to a group of players. But
I love Ramp. I think Ramp's a great strategy. I also think that, like you were saying, there's great shift targets in this deck that you've made. Each opponent, if there's ever a multiplayer format, that is ridiculous. Everybody discard your hands.
I imagine if there's ever a separate ban list for multiplayer, the first 2 cards will be that thing and then Diablo. No, they'll be done. Because Diablo triggering on every one of your opponent's turns, no. So if multiplayer ever exists in any capacity, those are the first 2 cards in the ban list. If I was to have fun.
Well, JEBAS, thank you so much for showing us your Emerald Sapphire list. I think this is a really good base, especially start as people are looking to play in set 6 here at Azurite Seas. BEDECANDIO, thank you so much for your Ruby Amber Vroom list. Are there any other decks that you think that starting off in the competitive scene that we're just going to see right off the bat be played quite a bit?
Yeah, blue, red, steel song.
Red,
They're still going to
purple.
exist. I mean, they
Yep.
still exist. Fortunately, I think that the decks we just mentioned gained very little from the new sets. I think of the what I call big three in some ways, which Ruby Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire, and Steel Song, though deck that got I honestly don't think that the biggest upgrade is Ruby Amethyst in Genie. I think Genie is amazing.
Looking at kind of the competitive scene in the future, how are you feeling headed off into this Azurite Sea format with Continentals coming up?
I'm very excited to see what happens in Europe for more than just the see what decks is going to be played, but I would really love to know the format of Continentals. So I am looking forward to finding that out. I can't be excited about anything until I know those things. Because I don't know what I'm preparing for. How I approach preparing for a 2-game format tournament versus a best of 3 tournament is drastically different. So I have no idea what I'm going to play. I have no idea what I should play. It's just going to be TBD on that one. But it's going to be fun to see. And I, again, don't have to be the guinea pig for this, which is nice, seeing as EU is ahead of time. But I also don't get to be the one who gets to play the week 1 deck that no one saw coming and didn't have time to prepare, but I worked really hard on. So I don't get that benefit.
I'm excited to watch what happens in EU and at Charles Collectible Show, kind of the 2 biggest tournaments leading up to the NA Continentals. And hopefully we'll see you there. That'd be really cool to hang out again and to be able to play. And
Yeah, I'll probably be there.
Speedy, you have a lot of judging coming up. I'm assuming you put in your application for Continentals. Anything else that you're doing in the in-between?
Yeah, I put in my application for Anaheim, I think, or just earlier this week. They opened up staff applications. So it is technically open to the public. So like, if you're watching this and you want to try and work for Anaheim, go for it. As far as other events, the online events, like we mentioned earlier, the Illuminator Champions League, I've had a couple different individuals reach out interested to leverage our advisors in Rulebook Hub as online judge staff. We'll see. I'll still be around doing what I have been doing for the last year as far as the online communities. Yeah, if you're watching this and you haven't joined Rulebook Hub yet, please do, right? We have a really great team that can manage all hours of the clock.
That's great. And Speedy, we look forward to hopefully seeing you in Anaheim if you're picked and able to go. I think you've done a great job so far. And I know at least with the Lorcana Rulebook Hub for 20 Lore Pro, we'll be collaborating together on content in the future. We'll have that on the channel for y'all to see. No timeline yet, but we are working on it, doing the rough drafts together. Really great to see that come together and all the help that you've been giving us, Speedy. JEBAS, I know you're coming to Charlie's in December for the 8K.
Yep.
Any other big plans you got going on?
Not really, I guess. You know, maybe when we have some information about the LCQs, that could change. But it's hard for me to want to commit to anything when I don't know anything, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of players are in that same space mindset of we're excited to play the game, we want to play the game, don't know what's next, and we're itching for it. We want to know what's next, that way we can start preparing, have the motivation to keep playing at this high level. I like other TCGs as well, but Lorcana has been something I'm very passionate about right now. And so hopefully that Ravensburger kind of announces something coming up, because we'd love to have more content, more competitive space. 20 Lore Pro in the coming months, you know, we're going to Charlie's Collectible Show to stream their 8K. Really excited for that. But then in March, kind of after everything's said and done, we are going to be doing the Hunter Burden Memorial, which is a donation tournament to raise awareness for suicidal ideation in the gaming community. Every single bit of it is donated towards the 988 Crisis Lifeline. And so we're going to be streaming that, running it again this year. Really looking forward to doing that tournament. We're going to see how big we can make it. For those who are in Texas, especially Magic players, they know that Hunter Burden's a huge tournament. Excited for that. Are y'all still doing content? Is there anywhere that people can follow you if they're wanting to watch you do either deck techs or your different gameplay? Where can people find you, BEDECANDIO?
Yeah, a lot of my content's up on YouTube. Same tag everywhere at BEDECANDIO7. Twitter, I engage as much as I can, usually not in the drama, but more the fun stuff. I'm always okay to reach out to on Discord. I'm pretty responsive. Don't quote me on that, but I'd try. But yeah, those are the primary places. And Twitch, when I do stream, I did the set review. I streamed it and then recorded it. And it's not quite on YouTube yet. Will be soon. But yeah, that's where you can get me.
Very cool. Thank you so much, BEDECANDIO, again, for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
JEBAS, where can people follow you, learn more about you, see what you're doing?
I have been streaming a little bit more lately, not Lorcana, but yeah, you can still find me on Twitch. If you ever have any questions about Lorcana, even if I'm not playing it, certainly I'm always pretty responsive there. I'll occasionally have interesting takes about the discourse surrounding Lorcana on Twitter. So you can probably find me there as well, at JEBAS SPEEDY. And I'm, always memeing around in the 20 lore Discord at the very least, so.
And you're doing stuff with Ink Thieves, right? Like, are y'all doing content for Ink Thieves?
Yeah, we are looking at doing content. They have been having some videos come out. I'm maybe in the process of working on potentially a podcast setup. We'll see what we do with that. Actually, Ink Thieves channel would probably be where you'd be able to find some of that once we do get to that point.
Well, thank you so much, JEBAS, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Again, we'll make sure to have all those links in the description for you as well. And for both of y'all, you're going to be competing in the Illumineers Champions League. So excited to see y'all playing there. BEDECANDIO more than JEBAS because you'll probably be our opponent. And Speedy, people can find you in any Discord that has Lorcana.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have a socials presence. Pick a Discord and type @Speedy. You'll find me. It's any Discord that is, I've Pixelborn, 20 lore, the main Discord, HQ. You can even tag me in the French Discord. I don't go in there often, but it's there for connections, Labyrinth, Ink Thieves. I'm always happy to engage the community, help answer questions, and, looking for more collaboration as well with the Lorcana Rulebook Hub and the advisors. Fantastic people helping with Rulebook Hub. I'm always happy to engage with anyone about those topics. So.
Well, Speedy, thank you so much for your time today and for interviewing with us. We really appreciate it because those mechanics and rule questions are important, and I know players are going to be asking more in the future.
Happy to. I appreciate you guys having me here.
And I'm SirAshtown. I'm also on Twitter. You can find me at SirAshtown, and I'm also in the Discord. So feel free to hit me up. I'm eventually going to be playing with these guys in the Illumineer Champions League, so that'll be fun. You'll get to see me play Lorcana. We'll see how good that is. Watch BEDECANDIO. Watch BEDECANDIO.
Very heavy.
But thank you all so much for watching today here for the Azurite Sea Set review for Set 6. Really excited for what's to come with Lorcana and the future, especially as we approach Continentals. We hope that you enjoyed today's video, and we will catch y'all in the next one.